My name is Karissa and I live in Brunswick, Georgia. I have a business building custom furniture and restoring antique furniture. I have this one wall in my living room and I need something there for storage. It's a focal point in my home. So we're going to be building a bookshelf with 3 different sections. It's going to fit the space perfectly. It's going to have this detail of arches in it. I have 2 days to build this bookcase, so it's time for us to go get started.
This is my stay-at-home build. The first step is to cut down the plywood. It can be hard to support an 8-foot board when you're cutting it by yourself, but I've got a trick that makes it easy.
So I use a piece of 2-inch insulation foam underneath my plywood to make cuts safely without any pieces falling off. I have my circular saw on a jig, and this is gonna help me get super straight cuts. I'm gonna set my blade at the exact depth of my plywood, which is 3/4 of an inch, but I won't be cutting into my foam.
The saw's all set. Let's start cutting these pieces. With the jig, I get a straight cut along all 8 feet of my boards. These straight starting boards are going to make sure the rest of my build fits together perfectly. After 13 boards, I've got all the frame and shelf pieces cut to the depth of my bookcase. Now I'll switch over to my miter saw to cut them to length. I measure out 7 feet high for my sides and then I chop them on the miter saw. And then the width of my shelves, 18 inches, and cut them to length. Now, I've got a stack of shelves and we can move on to notching our sides.
So now we're gonna notch out the bottom, top, and side pieces to give us a little nesting spot for our backer board to sit into. So when you look at it from the side, you don't see that backer board, you just see a smooth profile.
Using the dado blade on my table saw and lowering the blade height so it doesn't cut all the way through, I can cut out a notch in just one pass.
So that allows it to sit perfectly flush. Now I'm measuring out and mapping out where the notches are gonna go for my shelving. I'm doing notches because it's gonna add so much more strength than just screwing it in.
To cut these notches, I'm gonna use a router. It's important to cut these notches straight or my shelves won't sit level. Straight lines are good, but only if you can make straight cuts. If you're like me and not a robot, that means using a jig. You can screw one of these together from pieces of scrap wood pretty fast. For a straight line, just make sure it's perfectly square.
So here's a jig that I made. It will hug my router just right so that when I push it all the way through, it doesn't wiggle back and forth at all and I get a perfectly straight line.
Using custom jigs like this is a great way to add functionality to your tools. Mine is working like a charm and makes cutting my straight notches effortless.
So now we're ready to assemble the bookshelf together. We're gonna get glue in all of the slots that we made and then place our shelves inside. So a lot of people don't know that glue is way stronger than nails and screws. So the nails and screws really just act as a clamp until the glue dries.
Now I've got 3 sets of shelves, but I need 1 single bookcase. So it's time to attach them all together. I have 2 pieces notched out for the bottom and 1 for the top. Starting with the bottom pieces first, I put glue on the edges and fit the notches snugly over top. Now I hammer in some nails to help the glue set. Then a piece in the middle to separate the bottom shelves and attach the base. The bottom's done, and it's looking a lot more like a bookshelf. Time to flip it and put on the top. With the last nail in, the main structure of my bookcase is complete. That's all for today. In my next video, we'll cut our arches, add our trim, and get this bookshelf painted. See you then!